Well, for 108 years, they tapped their way through history. The Telegraph was Canada's main form of cross-country communication for a long time. And this week marks the anniversary of BC's first telegraph message. Bruce Kirkpatrick reports.
In remote cabins spaced 25 miles apart in the wilderness, overland telegraph crews kept Canada in contact in the ice and snow of winter and the fly-infested heat of summer. With sparks flying from telegraphers' bugs, the keys they used to send and receive messages.
It was critical for government, for news, for commerce and business to know about disasters and shipping.
On April 11, 1865, 20 years before the first train arrived, the first telegraph message in BC was received in U.S. Minster all the way from Moody's Sawmill in North Vancouver, 148 years ago this week in history. And a few days later, BC received a telegraph from Seattle.
And the first commercial news that came in on the 19th was the death of President Abraham Lincoln, assassinated. And so suddenly people weren't waiting months for the news to come in by sailing ship. Suddenly they knew right away.
The colony of British Columbia became part of a global race to build the first network to send information around the world via telegraph. The Collins Overland Telegraph Company intended to link up with a Russian telegraph system through Alaska and Siberia. The Collins Company hired artist John Clayton White, who painted the crews installing their lines. But the first international telegraph was through an underwater eastern cable.
They found out that there was a transatlantic cable, the big, expensive, risky technology that went underwater from Newfoundland to Ireland had succeeded.
The Royal BC Museum has a collection of old telegraph equipment, including a branch that grew around the telegraph line and insulators with company names.
The Canadian Pacific Railway, the Canadian National Railway.
Relays in wooden boxes boosted the signal as it made its way to wherever it was sent, and everyone along the line knew what was being sent.
And that's why many businesses, including banks and governments and lumber firms, used word-for-word code books.
On July 12, 1973, Stanley Humphrey at the ENN train depot in Esquimalt sent the last live Morse code telegraph message. After 108 years of dotting and dashing across the nation, the telegraph retired.
This Week in History, brought to you by the Royal BC Museum, bringing British Columbia stories together.